Nighttime time lapse starts now. So here I am, first location of the night. This is in Jing'an. This is about 15-20 minutes away from my house, from my apartment rather, and we're in a prime spot. This is Jing'an. Over there, that big golden building is Jing'an Temple. It's a massive, bright, amazing looking building that they claim is several hundred years old. It's not really, but prime location. We're dead center in the middle here of this. I've got the camera all set up and going, as you saw. Played around with my settings, managed to get a 1 second exposure time. That's a truck. 1 second exposure time, f5.6, ISO 100. I had to play around with it to get a long enough shutter speed and not be blown out and everything, but managed to get good. And as you see, trigger trap running nice and well. That's at like 1.5 seconds a shot. So long enough where it has enough time to buffer. It's only half a second to buffer, but because the memory card is so fast, it's able to do that. So I'm just gonna keep leaving this running for a little bit. I'm just gonna let it run because the traffic flows in weird ways, so you can't really predict it. Sometimes like it's empty like this, like right now. Like right now it's just completely empty, which is pretty useless. But on this overpass, as you can see, I'm kind of on an overpass, there are 2 or 3 different shots here. I've shot here before and you have lots of different cool locations in all one spot. The only issue you do have is if people run on this overpass, it does bounce, and that's why I've actually switched over to my big tripod. You might have noticed I was using my little TQC14 tripod, and actually as I was reviewing the pictures, I noticed that a couple of them, the shots actually moved slightly. I don't know whether it was to do with people walking around me or that I had my backpack hanging from it. You notice that I had my bag hanging from it. I don't on this one because this is super sturdy, but I think maybe having my bag hooked up to the bottom of the tripod actually made it swing a little bit, because the bag did swing, and all it needs is just for it to nudge a little bit. So I'm just going to leave this to shoot. My hand's getting really cold because it's very cold out right now, but we'll be shooting around a lot more tonight, a lot around this location, and I might go to a couple of other spots down on the street level that I think will look really great. Alright, shot number 2. I was just over there, I've just finished, and all I did was bring my tripod over here. But as you can see, this is a big intersection with lots of traffic and lots of noise. So I'm gonna have to shout a bit. But again, very similar settings. I've actually increased my f-stop, or decreased, I don't know how you work it out, to 6.3, just so I have a bit more depth, because there's a lot more to focus on in this, because it goes a lot more deeper. I had to play around with it a bit because now my ISO is 200 in order to still keep it at 1 second, because I don't want the buffer to be, I don't want the shot to be any longer, because then you see no detail, and I don't want it to have a longer interval between shots, because I want to keep it at around 1.5, because then you can still follow movement. Remember how in the previous vlog, and if you didn't watch the daytime time-lapse vlog, I'll put a little thumbnail here for you to watch. But in that I also talked about having enough time in between shots where you can still follow things that are moving in the scene, because if they go by too quickly, it becomes really cumbersome and weird, and it doesn't look real. It doesn't look like a time lapse. So that's why you kind of want that short period of time where you can still follow what's going on. So it gives 1.5 seconds on the time lapse for the trigger trap, which got just hanging down here. 1 second shot, ISO 200, f6.3, that's it done. And these blue lights are on underneath the subway, freeway. But again, you can see lots of traffic. So I was just standing here waiting for the time lapse just to carry on and do its thing. And I was actually realizing that I never really spoke about the fact that why I'm doing time lapse for stock video. And the reason is, it's another form of income for me. The time-lapse stuff is actually fairly easy for me to do in Shanghai. I kind of know where people would want time-lapse footage of. So that's the reason why I'm doing it. It's just another form of income for me. I'm not looking to make a living from doing stock video stuff, especially this time-lapse stuff. But, you know, it's just going to be a nice little earner for me as well. Because I figured, you know, I can rattle off a few of these, you know, I could go out and shoot video, or time-lapse for video, rather, you know, once, twice a month, And then that's me just building up a big portfolio of stock video for people to film, or use rather. So that's why I'm just doing that. It's also like a cool little test for me, because then it's more like I have to start thinking about what people would want in terms of a time-lapse video for their own video projects. So that's kind of a cool little extra idea. So that's why I'm doing time-lapse stuff. It's just an extra little learner. And the reason actually why I started looking in the first place was because Jared Polin, you know, Chronos Photo, Raw Talk, all the rest of it, was talking about stock video, about a website. I won't mention the name because I'm not giving them free press, but you know, I decided to go on their website and look at what time-lapse stuff they have for Shanghai and Hong Kong. And there's also other websites that I use where I decided to look at what time-lapse stuff they have there. And on the site that I normally go on, there's one time-lapse video for Shanghai. One, and it's rubbish. I'm like, I can definitely do better than that. So even if I just throw up a, you know, 15 seconds worth of time-lapse footage from a couple of different locations, charge a bit of money for it, it's a nice little learner for me. So I figured I might as well do it. So there you go. That's the reason why I'm doing filming some time-lapse stock footage. All right, location number 3, and I look like a smurf because of these crazy blue lights that you just see here. Don't know why they do them, but it's weird and it makes me look weird, but I can't fix it, so deal with it. But I was just over there before, I flipped over, and now I'm over here, doing this shot here. Again, I love this area because you can bang out a lot of shots really quickly. That's why I'm here, that's why I'm doing it. Actually, of all the frames, this is one of my favorites because you have so much traffic. You have traffic coming in from the freeway, you have traffic coming in from the ground level. You have lots of different traffic sources, which means lots of lights. I mean, look at this. So much light movement. For settings for this one, I should be putting thumbnails up. If I haven't, I apologize. You can watch the time-lapse, the video of all the time-lapses I shot tonight in another video, which again, I'll put a thumbnail. But settings are exactly the same, apart from I changed the ISO down to 125. It didn't need to be as sensitive. I wanted to darken up the scene a little bit. But again, same 1 second, f6.3, ISO 125, I think, and 1.5 seconds. But again, look, see all this traffic? It's just about to move in a minute. And then it's lots of moving traffic, lots of lights. This is one of my favorite shots because I've done this one before. And just the framing is really cool, and I like this one a lot. Just because of all the movement, because when you're coming on the freeway, I don't know if you can see it, but it kind of swings around, which makes for really cool light movements and light trails. It gives it some interest. There you go. Okay, setup number 4 of tonight. My hands are freezing cold. So as you can see, I'm on street level now, but I'm actually street level with, this is the Jing'an temple that I was telling you about before. And I've had to play around with a couple of settings and a couple of framings. Again, I'll put the thumbnail here. See how I'm getting really good at giving space for the thumbnail? It's there, right? I had to play around with a lot because one thing you need to keep in mind is when you're far away from your subject, you can allow for a longer space in between your shutters. But when you're on ground level, stuff moves by a lot quicker. Think of it this way, if you were standing 6 feet from a plane and it zoomed past you, you wouldn't even see it and you'd be dead. But the plane would just zoom by, right? But if you're standing 6 miles, you wouldn't see it in 6 miles. That analogy isn't very good. But if you were standing further back, you would see it in your frame for a longer period of time. And that's exactly what it's like in time-lapse. When you're closer to your subject, you need to have a shorter duration in between your shots. So I think what I've done for the shutter is it, yeah, it's 0.8 of a second. So it's not as long. It's kind of long. It's actually maybe too long because for the trigger trap, it's a second. So actually, as you can hear, I'm actually amazed that the buffer is managing to keep up with this. You wouldn't be able to do this unless you had a really fast card like I have. Mine's an 800X card or something stupid. So, it cost me a fortune, but it allows you to do stuff like this. And I'm just gonna have to leave it running because there's not a lot of traffic running by right now. There's a lot of traffic on the other side, but not much on the side I'm on. But I quite like the framing because it has the temple and it has a mall and stuff like that, and all the fairy lights you can see. So it works quite well for downtown in Shanghai. The only problem is my hands are freezing cold and I haven't eaten today. I spent all my time checking the shots from the earlier in the day, so I had no time to eat. So now I'm pretty much running on Red Bull, actually. But now, let's see, 230 shots. I'm probably going to leave it running for about 500-ish. But again, it's lots of setups tonight, lots of quick back and forth. It's this side. Someone ducking and diving to make sure they're not in the pictures. It's like, you're on the wrong side, you need to be behind me. It's okay. But my hands are cold, so I'm going to keep having to move them, and I can't keep holding the camera forever because my arm's freezing. So I'm just going to leave this to run for a little bit longer. Might do a couple more setups tonight, but again, really cold, haven't eaten, and I've managed to get quite a lot in a very short period of time. So pretty happy actually with how we've done so far tonight. So I just realized it's 9 o'clock now, which is a lot later than I planned on staying out and shooting tonight. And as I said before, I haven't eaten, so I'm actually going to head in. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. It's been pretty good actually. I think we've managed to get, what, four setups in like an hour and a half or something like that. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good going for me, but I nearly got killed. I'm going to head in now because I definitely need to eat something before all the restaurants close. And my hands are freezing. I'm tired. I've been up all day. So let's get going. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. Thank you for sticking around. If you watch part 1 and then watch part 2, thank you for that. So I'm going to head out now and get some dinner. I'm at a crossroads here. No one's moving. That's a police truck. I'm going to get killed again. And as you can see, China is still very much alive, even at 9 p.m. at night. So I'm going to head in, try and get some food and rest. Because tomorrow I have to edit all this stuff. Hey. All right, okay. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. I've been Craig McCormick, and I'll catch you in the next one.